but network policy server connections. So if I make policy changes, did this user connect to the network policy server and get that update? Every time, is it checking, is it doing? So you're not just knowing, is this person having a problem getting on, but are they reaching every server that they need to be reaching and taking a look at those points? We can even audit special logons, and I could go through all these. I could spend 2 hours because I enjoy this stuff. And we could dig into every single one of these: account logons, account management, detailed tracking, directory services access, policy change access, privilege use. If you've got Windows 7, you can open this up yourself and you can see this and play with it. Understand there is a much deeper level of control that you have in troubleshooting and supporting your end users in your offices and out in the field, so you don't need to spend as much time digging for those answers. And that's really what's key. With security, we've also added things like multi-home firewall profiles. We have policy-based network segmentation, and we've even updated NAP, and I'll show you in a moment how we can ensure that only healthy machines access corporate data. So what we've done is a Windows client connects to the NPS server coming in remotely. This could be via direct access, this could be via VPN, or it could be even local. So they get to the NPS server and it does a quick check and says they are policy compliant. Give them access. Great. It says they're not policy compliant, so depending on the rules you set up, you can put them into a restricted network where you have patching servers that basically then push out those patches, and until that machine has those patches, they're not going to be accepted in, or they can be moved to a policy server. And the policy server says, you know what, your antivirus is not up to date, or you haven't done a scan, or these features aren't turned on. So you can, and this has been available for a while, but not built into Windows Server and a product that's free. This is something you have to go get and add to third-party boxes, perhaps to your firewall boxes. Come on in. Come on in. Perhaps to a firewall box or a policy box, and now it's built into Windows and part of Windows. Again, one less thing for you to worry about through your network policies. We've added App Locker, which I'll show you a demo of in a few moments, IE8, and data recovery, where we can do a file backup and restore or make a complete image of that PC. And since Windows 7 supports boot from VHD, you can not only make an image of that PC, but turn it into a VHD and then boot from that. I love the fact that on my laptop I can boot into Server 2008 or boot into Windows 7. And it's not a dual boot, it's a boot from VHD. If you want to learn more about boot from VHD, go out to Springboard. We'll show you how to build a VHD image and how to set up that boot process, which is great for those of you that are trainers or do a lot of consulting where sometimes you need a server where you want to test things or go into a client and then you want to go back onto Windows 7 for your everyday work. You can do it very, very simply and easily without having to run virtual machine on top of Windows 7. You can do it utilizing the hardware. We have System Restore, Volume Shadow Copies, and Volume Revert. All these little features that enable your end users to get back to where they were at without having to pick up the phone and call you for help and support. So two of my favorite features in doing this is the troubleshooting platform and the problem step recorder. How many of you are familiar with the problem step recorder? Raise your hand. How many of you have no clue what I'm talking about? Oh, you guys are going to love me for this one. All right, so I go into my start and I just type in PSR, and up at the very top we see a little feature called PSR. So I get a call from Bob. Bob spells his name backwards. That's fine. And Bob says, my calculator's not working. I go, okay, Bob, run problem step recorder. Type in PSR, so he does it, and I say, okay, hit record. So it says, hey, be aware, you're about to record. Okay, great, so I'm now recording. See, it says recording now here? So I say, okay, Bob, do what you do. So Bob says, all right, well, I go into start, and I type in calculator, and I bring up my calculator, and let's pretend that it's here. And not only is he doing that, but let's say that he is actually doing unit conversion here. And he's like, yeah, I get all these extra things up on the screen, and I can't find my numbers, and it says all this stuff, and I don't know what I'm doing. All right, no problem, Bob. And of course I say to Bob, and then it crashes. What are you doing, Bob? Bob goes, nothing. Sure you are, Bob. So Bob says, yeah, then I just go up, and then I can't find an exit. There's no exit. So he says, okay, see that? And he even adds a little comment, and he says, you know, no exit. And then Bob does a few things, and, you know, Bob closes out, and then he stops recording. And it's going to come up, and I'm going to call this file test. I'm going to save it here to my desktop, and I'm going to hit save, and I'm going to say, okay, Bob, send that file to me. So Bob emails that file, and I get a little zip file. And I open up that zip file, and here's what I see. So it's going to show me every single step. User clicked on the View menu. User went to Scientific Alt-2, dragged to the calculator. Everything that Bob did is being recorded. There's his comments. And it also tells me how many steps, which version he's running, 64-bit, 7600, everything that happened. So I can call Bob back, who said he didn't do anything, and I can go, Bob? Yes. Liar! I have it documented right here. And it shows me that Bob is launching a piece of software he's not supposed to, or launching an old version, or doing something that he's not supposed to. Simple, built in. No, there is no version of this for Vista. No, there isn't a version for XP. No, you can't download it. These are all the questions I get asked. It's built into Windows 7. It's one of those features you can tell a user, launch problem step recorder, record it, show me what you're doing, and send that to me. How much easier does this make your life? A lot. I love problem step recorder. What do you think? Good feature? You guys like it? Yeah? All right. The other good one that really helps users is our troubleshooting tools. So maybe one of the things you've noticed is when you go down here into your network settings, you see these troubleshooting properties, where I can say, you know what, I want to take a look at incoming connections or shared files, or I want to troubleshoot a home group or my connection to direct access, and how to put that all together. Well, right here, what we find is we've got this troubleshooter built in that will, if you just show this to users, can help them to fix their problems. So I can say, I want to check for a performance issue, or that arrow isn't working, or how to configure my device, or troubleshoot audio recording, or run maintenance tasks. If a user's having a problem, they can run this, and it doesn't just tell them what's wrong. It'll try to do it. Remember, like when you couldn't connect to a wireless network, you would reset your DNS cache and reset the route. You go through all those steps. Windows will do it automatically for you. When you hit troubleshoot network connection, it will do all of those steps for you now. It'll do it for your users. All of this making it easier for your end user to support themselves, not have to call in, do more with less. Less help desk calls gives you more time to do the things that you need to do. App Locker allows you to pick and choose which applications will work on people's systems and which ones are not. So you can say, you know what? I'm only going to allow you to install and run Adobe Acrobat version 8 or higher. I don't want anybody using 7 or 6 or 5, or I don't want anybody using Firefox. And you can put App Locker on that. So rather than picking what people can't use, we can choose what they can use. You're only allowed to use Internet Explorer 8, Adobe Acrobat version 8 or above. And this way, you don't have to tell them what they can't. It's like leaving your children with a babysitter. It's easier to say 2 popsicles and in bed by 10 o'clock than they're not allowed to juggle knives. They're not allowed to eat baker's chocolate. They're not allowed to, you know, put their tongue on the outlets, all the things you don't want kids to do. It'll be a very long list. It's easier to choose what they can do. And it's the same with your users. BitLocker, again, as we said earlier, BitLocker to go, we now support FAT. BitLocker, you can only encrypt with the Enterprise or Ultimate SKU, but you can read with all SKUs, and you can do a read-only with XP or Vista. So BitLocker to go is backwards compatible, but the only SKU that you can encrypt a drive in is Enterprise or Ultimate. Another reason to look at that within your own infrastructure. There was a great story last year in England where somebody from the tax service lost all the British tax records on a thumb drive. It was left in a taxi cab. Yeah, not good. Raise your hand if you have some data somewhere on a thumb drive that if you lost it, it would be bad. Okay, don't really raise your hand. Don't tell me. That's why you need BitLocker to go. All right, so that pretty much does it for me. Microsoft.com/learning. I'm at Microsoft.com/springboard. If you do not have access to the final bits for customers, there is still a 90-day evaluation version, full version of the enterprise that they can download and use for testing. If you go to the Springboard website and click on eval, it's a full 90-day version so they could test migration strategies, deployment strategies, etc.